Hi, welcome back to Coaching with Nadja and Ro, where we talk about all things to do with team coaching. And we've been having an interesting conversation today about the role of the team leader and how that relates to coaching the team leader. So, is it more about that we're coaching the leader to coach the team, or is it that we're coaching the team with the leader integrated into the team itself? So that's kind of the conversation we're having today. So welcome back. Um,
Yeah,
as
welcome back to Euro. I think
Thanks.
you've had some inspirational travels, so we're back with some renewed energy and thinking about, team coaching and what that means, because I think still it's an area that's not broadly very well understood. And I think this is an excellent question, like is team coaching coaching the team leader to coach their team, or is it more so related to coaching the whole team, including the team leader?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess from my thoughts, it's kind obviously because I write about self-organizing teams. And by the way, the evidence around self-organizing teams isn't clear. There isn't a massive, clear swathe of evidence that says self-organizing teams are the way to go. It's just my personal preference. So I'm not sort of advocating that we should always have self-organizing teams. However, my coaching philosophy is always about leaving the team capable of coaching itself. And that, for me, probably indicates where I sit on that continuum because if it's about leaving the team capable of coaching itself, that would also include the team leader. So, whilst, yes, of course, we're working with the team leader to help them transition, if you like, from that managing to coaching role, at the end of the day, in my world, I would want them to be part of the team and not something that sits above or sits separate from the team. So that's my opening gambit to you, Nigel. Where do you sit on?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So, where I'd like to take it first, maybe, is to take a step back and, why do we even have team leaders? What is their role? And because I think that's different. Because you just gave the example of, an emergency response team where, each and everyone sort of plays to their strength. So, if something needs stitching, you get the surgeon in. If there's something wrong with breathing, like the ER is your first call. And so in that sort of more distributed leadership where everybody plays to their strengths, I think, yeah, that's like one, you want that to be one oiled machine because you don't want the surgeon to make decisions around, breathing issues. Something needs to happen and someone needs to take charge. But coming back to, so what's the role? Maybe let's just focus on business because ultimately we're doing this coaching within business. What is the role of a team leader? And I think it may be interesting to look at history a little bit, like, and we all are familiar, like with the pyramid model, and someone has to sit on top, and then there's like a bit of a reporting into that leader, and you may sort of consider that more managerial. And then obviously there is a difference between being a manager or a leader, but quite often, that even that difference is often not really clear in business. So if I think about a team leader and more so maybe a team manager, it's also this one point, this one face, with the team and the other parts of the organization. So it's kind of like a bit of an efficiency there in terms of, communicating what's going on in the team, goes through the team leader. So there's different aspects because, if an organization needs to talk to the whole team, that can become a bit tedious. So, that's just one example of where maybe the team leader is the baby a little bit more elevated, but it serves its purpose, again, within the overall system.
Yeah, yeah. I think there are a lot of things going around in my head then about how have we got the system that we've got in terms of the way organizations are structured. And that goes way back to, the myths of time with the Industrial Revolution and how work was organized. We've also got some social aspects there in terms
Yeah.
class and how
Mhm.
that then influenced the way that we organize businesses. So there's a whole heap of stuff that is really systemic around the models that we have today.
Yeah,
We kind
fascinating.
of, and obviously I'm biased because I do write about self-organizing teams, and we do. sometimes I think we don't maybe analyze enough why we've got the system that we've got, and we just assume that's the best way to do things. And it might not be in all cases.
Lost you there again, Ro.
Oh,
Oh, there
sorry,
you are.
I'm back again. We've had trouble with the internet today again.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, so I was just saying about, it's that we've got a system that we've inherited, and we've not really critically assessed whether that system is still fit for purpose. Because if you think about the way organizations were structured, even at the beginning of my career, to the way we're structured now, we don't necessarily need, in the sense that you mentioned, that sort of distributed system where information flows down from the top. Maybe because of the pace of change and the things that we're doing, they're automatic. We don't have memos written on paper like when I first started. We've got emails, which actually probably slows things up because we get so many of them. But in that sense, information can flow much freer in the system, and actually it helps teams to be able to make decisions for, obviously within certain parameters, but it helps that they can make decisions without having to go up and down the hierarchy. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so maybe it's that the team leader role is different in each organization because it very much depends on the context of that organizational structure and what the structure was actually designed to do. I don't know. That's my take.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's going through my mind, with AI, it's even more so that information is just completely distributed.
Yeah.
Everybody can access it at the time that they need or want it. Yeah, so really interesting. And I think, what I heard you say is, like it's context again is super key. So it's kind of like maybe a little bit superfluous to talk about either or, it's and like if a team leader is struggling, you can support them with, leadership development or a workshop or content, or they may want to implement some goals and you can help them with some facilitation. Or it may be something where the team leader is acknowledging that they need to empower the team more, or there is certain barriers within the team that you actually want to have the whole team in the room when you're doing your coaching, because then some of those barriers that exist can be removed. So it's really, yeah, I agree. It's really depending on the context, the need, and yeah, the goals that the organization ultimately has of that team.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, because again, we could easily go on in this conversation for hours and hours. So just wanting to bring it back to what do we then do
Yeah,
as coaches? And I think the
right.
word that was going through my head there was contracting. So, having a conversation with the team leader about where are you in your own development? Where do you want to take the team? Do you want to be the coach of the team? Or do you want the team to be able to coach itself and you are part of that system? And
Yeah,
then have
beautiful.
a conversation and maybe a coaching conversation around that that then helps them understand, okay, what is it they're trying to achieve? And that then helps us as team coaches support the team leader wherever they are in that particular contextual soup, so that we can give that certainty and clarity or just enough of that certainty and clarity that then helps take the kind of first steps with them, and then obviously contracting with the team as well. So that's kind of my sort of summary of what we've talked about. I'm interested for your take on what we've talked about.
Well, yeah, no, I definitely I'm with you. And I was just wondering if we can maybe make it a bit more concrete with an example. So let's say, how would this work? So quite a common comment that I hear from team leaders or that I coach, one-on-one individually is, I'm asking for these deadlines, I'm empowering my team, I'm looking at their goals and the work just doesn't get done. So how to approach this, like what is the conversation that you would be having with a team leader that comes to you, am I asking the wrong questions? Why are they not delivering? Is there, I know there's stuff in their personal lives going on, but it just seems so difficult on the day-to-day basis just to get my team in gear and actually us delivering. We go into meetings, we talk a lot, and then nothing gets done. So how would you approach a team leader that would come to that, to us,
Yeah.
with that question?
Yeah. So I think so as with everything, you start simple and you work up. So you're going to be going into questions around how the team works at the moment. So that might mean that as part of your contracting process, you will go and observe the team in action with the team leader there, so that
Yeah,
you then understand, okay, what's going to be our first step working together. Because
yeah,
I think without really understanding the context yourself, you can't really go in and, I mean, there are tools and things you could use, yeah, for sure. But really, you want to experience it and understand what's happening in the system. And then maybe you start with something simple like, how you manage team meetings could be an entree into the conversation, and then you work at it from there. And that's a great point, because that then helps explain why, as a team coach, you would work for a longer period with a team, because you're kind of taking it step by step rather than going in with a solution, because you can't possibly have a solution when you don't even understand the context. So that's
yeah. What
kind of
goes through
what
my
I would do.
mind is taking this consultant approach almost.
Yeah,
Go in and you just work out, you're the third observer. So you will see things, you will notice things that, the team that have been working together for so long, or the team leader that, may be there, on a really short term or longer term, but they are in the organization and they're so embedded in it and they can't sort of see outside. So you bring in an observer to really make your baseline, right? Like what's really happening here?
yeah,
Then you focus in into the different areas, how your meeting's going, how is your work being delivered, how you're going on your KPIs, what's performance like in the team, how well do people follow up whatever they say they take on, how are you empowering the team? Yeah, you can go into all
yeah.
these areas.
So I guess that's where, as a team coach, I would then go into the coach mode rather than the consultant mode. So
Yeah,
I would hold up the mirror and say, this is what I've observed. What
yeah,
sense of it do you make? Rather
yeah,
than going in with a
yeah,
kind of, I mean, you always have a working hypothesis, which you would test. You say, the hypothesis I would have about this team is this. What are your thoughts on that? And
yeah,
you might
yeah,
even ask them what's their hypothesis based on the mirror that I've just held up to you. So you go into
yeah.
that coaching mode with the team leader. Um, and so, yeah, so for those people listening in, you will see there is no one approach that we're suggesting, because we are entering a complex adaptive system that, once you've stepped into a river, you change the flow of the water. And so, it's constantly flowing around you. So for us to say, do this and this will work every time, would actually be not great, because we would actually be leading you in the wrong direction. You've really got to take that sort of curious, sort of just enough approach. You give just enough structure, just enough of a direction that then helps create that first natural step. Always in my world, with the view that they take responsibility for it themselves, rather than we as coaches telling them what to do. So you are still directing them. However, you're not directing them necessarily in one way. You're directing them with the structure that you actually present to them. So you're kind of scaffolding it for them. I don't know if that makes sense. That's just me sort of thinking through what is it I do when I work with people. And sometimes that feels uncomfortable for people as well, because they want somebody to come in and tell them what to do, particularly higher up in the organization. That's what they're expecting you to do. And so that's why I would say give just enough structure so that they have comfort from that. However, don't let your ego get in the way and going with the silver bullet, because that's not going to work either.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And I appreciate. And maybe at the very top of the organization, that may actually sometimes be happening. We have examples of great leaders that actually understand that principle. And so from that, to have that trickle down throughout the organization. So just to sum it up,
Hmm.
who benefit from team coaching is where you, as a team leader, you find yourself that you're putting in place a plan, you're asking for clear deliverables, you have team meetings, you are empowering the team, you're asking the right questions, and still nothing really happens. And so that's an indication of, right, maybe something else needs to shift. And it's not about, yet another consultant coming in telling me, I need to use these tools, or I need to have this vision, or I need to apply this strategy, or I need to do this. Sometimes when you're faced in a situation like that, it's just not working, or you're just being stuck. Sometimes you just have to be. And then a coaching approach would be really beneficial for you to start noticing what's actually happening. What are some of those barriers? And they are not barriers that are from a model of previously identified barriers in other organization or based on the benchmark study on what works in another organization. It's really context. It's really your organization, your team, your department, or whatever, system you're a part of.
Yeah, exactly. What's happening here? What are you noticing here?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That's right.
So that I think should be the question then that we ask. What are you noticing from the conversation that we've just had here? What's resonating for you?
Yeah,
What
beautiful.
what do you identify with? What might be different for you? We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And as always, please comment, like, and share the video. And yeah, let us know if there's any topics that you're grappling with at the moment that could do with some conversations around team coaching. So thanks from me.
And for me, and see you at the next one.
Yeah, fantastic. Take
Ciao.
care.